what the manifesto means and some of the stuff that goes around it. So I think my words are Ryanair words or anything like that. But me and our fellow teammates are here. We work for Ryanair, but they're opening some startup-like labs to create innovation in the software that the company uses for all different kind of systems that we do have. So we have offices in Dublin, Madrid, and Brussels. Then later on, maybe we can talk about that if you guys find it interesting. So what we're going to talk about today is software craftsmanship. Does anybody has ever heard of the term? Do you know the term, or is it something completely new to you? So all of you know at least what what the moves are also, and maybe some of you don't. So I'll go through the basics. So basically, 10 years ago, more or less, a new manifesto was created, raised up. I don't know what the best word is for it, which to me kind of like focus more on the individual in collaboration, but not as much as in the process as the agile movement does. So I didn't make a comparison like point by point, but once I showed the manifesto, you can easily see that it's more about how you as an individual, with collaboration with others, how can you do better, and therefore others can do better, and how we get along with that. In agile, it's more like, okay, so we have a team, and those are the values that you have, and you all together to achieve something. So I think it's an extension. It's not something that overrides it by any means. It's possibly impossible to follow the software craftsmanship manifesto without being agile. I don't think it's quite possible, and we will see more. So before I get to those points, just a small introduction. I just put it up because I need to write my name because it's not common in Spanish. So basically that's me, that's my Twitter right there. I've been developing software for over 10 years now. And I think I founded the craftsmanship community back in my hometown, Brazil, which I'm Brazilian. I've been here in Madrid for like 9 months now. Okay. Been liking it very much so far. Love the place. Yeah, of course, I'm not expecting you to read this, okay, so I'll do it forward. But basically, this is the manifesto. It was, like I said, created about 10 years ago by some very smart people. I'm going to show you some of them in case you don't know. Probably do. We'll go over step by step. So I'll read it for you, okay? So what the manifesto says is, I mean, before I go there, the first and for me, the most important thing is the raising the bar point. There's some controversy about the term, and we can get there by the end, okay? Let's leave it for now. If you don't like the phrase, raising the bar, if it means something bad to you, we can discuss it later. Just ignore it for now. So as aspiring software craftsmen, we are raising the bar of professional software development by practicing it and helping others learn the craft. Through this work, we come to value not only working software, but also well-crafted software. Not only responding to change, but also steadily adding value. Not only in individuals and interaction, but also in a community of professionals. Not only customer collaboration, but also productive partnerships. That is, in pursuit of the items on the left, we found the items on the right to be indispensable. I don't know how this reads to you, but to me, it kind of pushes us to think less about the process and more about ourselves and how we collaborate. When I mean the process, I actually mean how, whether or not you have iterations and things like that. It's kind of indispensable because I'll talk about what the practices that goes along with the manifesto are. But this is something that talks to you directly. So it's impossible for you to live on a team where only you follow one of the principles. It's not going to work out. So that's why the community is emphasized here as one of the most important things. And we'll see why in a later slide. Is it clear for everybody? I mean, what the points are? You have a minute, Bobs? Good question. Quite clear, right? Okay, so let me present you some of the, I mean, it's kind of like unfair to put these people here because there are so much more smart guys there. But I wouldn't be able to fit them all on the slide. So I took some randomly, some people that I enjoy the work. So the first one is Uncle, the author of Clean Code, the Clean Architecture. I mean, I can probably not say that accurately, but he founded the solid principles as well. A very smart guy, very influential. To me, it's the most important source of knowledge. During my career, it completely changed the way I write software. So if you don't know him, or if you know very little about him, I highly recommend you read anything that the guy writes. I don't agree with him in every aspect, but yeah, it's a very smart guy and a very humble person. Actually, talking with him. So the next one is from Jeffries. He's one of the father of the XP, and there's a reason why he made it to the slide, because software craftsmanship uses some of the, or all of them, depending on the situation, the XP techniques. Also very cool guy. Sandro Mancuso, probably if you guys are from here, you know him. Although he's Brazilian, he has a company in Barcelona called Computers. He wrote a book about software craftsmanship as well. I highly recommend you to read his blog posts and follow him on Twitter. Very smart guy. GB Reisenberg, if I read that probably, always have to try. Just GB, okay? The guy is actually very focused on testing and TDD. He, teaches it out, has some courses on the internet. Very cool guy as well. Corey Haynes, I put it up here. He's from the Ruby community. I don't know what you guys do for a living, but if you do Ruby, you know who he is. He's very influential in the States. I have a friend who actually organized the software craftsmanship meetup in San Francisco, and this guy shows up from time to time. So it's a very cool guy, very smart guy. Jason Gorman, he is one of the smart consultants that are out there. If you follow him on Twitter, you'll probably see a lot of cool stuff. He's very smart and something that I highly recommend. So all of these guys, not all of them were presented by the time the manifesto was written. It's not like the Agile that we had that picture from people in the room where they all, okay, we just created it. It's not like that. The manifesto came out to be, I think, from Uncle Bob's son and somebody else, which Uncle Bob treated him as an apprentice back in the day. So they kind of like gave the idea, they took it together, refined it, and then come up with the manifesto. Okay. So now what I'm gonna try to talk you through is the implications of the manifesto. Manifesto is just a paper with a bunch of ideas, right? So now what we're going to see how that translates to our reality, in some sense. So first things first, the manifesto, it kind of shifts the way companies treat their employees. So I don't know how it is here in Spain, but I think this is worldwide. But when you have like juniors, seniors, and somewhere in between, which I don't know the word for it. So it's kind of like, okay, if you have done 2-3 years, you're a junior. If you've done more than that, you're working to, I don't know, 8 or 5 years, or something else. And if you've done more than that, you're senior or something like that. Works like that in Brazil. I never liked it. I think there's something that it's a misconception that if you do something for a period of time, you become an expert on that. I don't think this is true. I also don't like things like certification and things of the like. And I came to value what the people that creates company around the movement base their system to call people a craftsman or something like that. If I call myself a craftsman, that's fine. I can probably do it. But the thing is, companies that does it, they kind of impose you through a pattern of patterns that you have to follow to become one. So it's heavily based on the European cube system. So from ages ago, where everybody starts out as an apprentice. So kind of like a junior developer. He's always been supervised. So every commit that he does, he has somebody else approving it and most likely disapproving it and then teaching him how to do it better. And it's very unlikely that an apprentice would not be pair programming like all the time. Because, if you don't do trunk-based development, every commit you do has a chance to reach production. And if you allow somebody with less experience to do it, it may not be a good thing. So for the companies I know, like Endurance and some company in the US, which is called Ignite, I believe, they all have this apprentice program where there's no trainees or things like that. Everybody starts off as an apprentice, and then it goes for like 2 years to up to 4 years or something like that. It's not mandatory. Everybody knows its own thing. And then you become a journeyman. Once a journeyman or a master craftsman judge an apprentice to be capable of raising from an apprentice to a journeyman, he becomes somebody that is able to work on himself. So basically, by himself, sorry. So basically, you can commit to master and things like that, and you're probably more involved, not only with code, but in supervising the activities yourself. Back in Brazil, I used, well, not with those names, but I used to, I joined a program like this where I was followed all the time by somebody who, I don't know what the name is, kind of like a coach. So I was beginning my career, anything that I did, you had to go through this guy, and he was very helpful. I think this works out way better than you hire somebody and leave him on his own to do coding by himself. And then just like after 1 month, you're checking whatever he's doing and you see that he's done a lot of wrong stuff. And it's bad for him as well, because he will feel bad about it, but he didn't know better. So I think it's the company full always. Even if you, as the one who should teach the guy, if the company is not pushing you to do that, I think there's a problem there. And the master craftsman is somebody that looks at every line of code that's been written, is the guy who usually has the architectural vision in mind. So probably is somebody that's been developing software for 10 to 20 years, something like that. I don't think there's a lot of them in companies. I don't know how producers handle this or other companies. But yeah, I think this is a senior guy. You know, the guy who is able to work independently and judge other people and say, okay, you can promote that guy to this because he's achieved this and that. And usually it's the person that drives what the system should look like. But better than myself, Sandro has defined what the movement kind of is supposed to mean with the phrase which I will proposing a very different mindset for developers and companies, a strong set of technical disciplines and practices, mostly based on extreme programming, and with a great alignment with agile methodologies. Software craftsmanship promises to take our industry to the next level, promoting professionalism, technical excellence, and the depth of production line and factory workers activity. Okay, there's a lot of things in there. So we're going to break this down a little bit into each topic, and I'll go through all of them step by step. But the thing that stood out the most for me is the last part. In Brazil, it's very common to have this factory worker attitude, not only from the people, but the company itself. So I don't know if this is the same meaning that you guys get from it, but in Brazil, it's very common for companies to hire somebody as a junior and charge a client for the same person as if he was a senior. And that guy, he will not be able to perform as a senior. And then he doesn't value things as working effectively. He doesn't worry about, or she, of course, worries about whether or not he's writing a well-crafted software or not. He's probably not being paid what he thinks he should be paid. He's being pressured all the time. And that creates the attitude of, okay, I'll do my own thing all the time, and I don't care about the rest. So if you're new to the movement, you see that it's not possible to follow this practice anymore. You have to have a mindset in which you respect the disciplines, you see value in it. That's the first thing, actually. You must believe that the disciplines you're about to practice or the things you're about to practice, they will translate into profit in the end. You will be a better developer and then grow from there. And you have to do this as a team thing. You cannot do it alone. So let's see what the practice is about. So yeah, this is the most famous XP slide, and everybody put this up. Anything that you go for that's extreme related. We will focus mostly on the inner cycle right here, where we have SDG development, pair programming, refactoring, and SQL design. Those are, at least for me, the most. I mean, when you talk about movement, I mean, you can probably see some of those or all of those, including in teams that have crafts people inside of them. But I think the inner cycle is the most important stuff, because you can probably learn to do that by yourself a little bit over, right? I mean, if you go for continuous integration, you can read books about it. You can probably try to set things up and to work and all of that. But it's on a micro level. And it may not require so much effort as learning to do testing and development. By the way, any of you guys do TDD on a regular basis? Great. So we're going to talk about that a lot. I mean, it's a topic that I enjoy very much. And yeah, to me, it's the most important practice. Don't be, I don't know if you're feeling like that, but don't be scared if you never did it before, or if you think it's like a mysterious thing. I think the industry has done a very bad job telling people, or actually teaching people about it. So I'm going to try to change that somehow, if I may. Not today, though. We'll talk about that later. So yeah, as I was saying, I think if one of those practices has to stood out in your mind is the TDD part. The reasons are many, but I can highlight a few. So basically, when you work on a way you work without tests, there's no way to prove that your code works somehow. Actually, you cannot prove correctness. But one of the things that you can do is make sure that you achieve steady adding value, which is the second point of the manifesto. The only way for you to go fast and keep doing things properly is if you have a suite of tests. And it has to be trustable, it has to be fast, you have to kind of see it build towards a product. The fact that some people like to do tests after, that's TDD, I think, by the way, test development, maybe I should go back to the beginning because not all of us practice it. It's a methodology in which you write the test first and then you write the code. There are those 3 laws that you must make a failing test, you must make the best test, you make the code that will pass the test. You're not allowed to write more of the code than is sufficient to make the test pass, and then you refactor. It sounds like an absurd thing, and people keep repeating this. Expect others to just, okay, now I can do it, and it's all fine. But it doesn't work like that. Probably, if you don't have anybody that has been through the process teaching you, you're not going to get it. And I can prove this to you. Happened to me probably 5 years ago, we'll see by the end, where I actually needed to ask for help because the project I was working on, nobody did it, and I wanted to do it, so I practiced at home, doing katas and all of that, which is what most people do. But without some guidance, you just keep developing. So you start slacking off, things like that. So to me, it's the most important practice today. So if it's something that you can get out of today and say, okay, maybe I should pay some attention to that, and if you need help with it, more than willing to provide what I know, which isn't perfect. So it's kind of like learn to program. But there's no right or wrong. You can look at the test and you can say, okay, you're probably missing this investment scenario. You probably took a larger step than a smaller step. But all those things, they're arguable. There's no right or wrong. People take different approach. There's outside into the inside out, and all of that. We're not going to get to that point. Just bear in mind that this is very important. Okay, so this is maybe I'll just put this up right here because I found this today actually. So this is for the guy that does TDD for quite some time. So apparently there's a new technique to be built on top of TDD, which is called TCR, test and commit or revert. It was by Ken Beck, the creator of TDD. I find it to be very interesting. I don't know if this is going to work on practice. I'm willing to try it, but basically, I just kind of walk you through this part, right? You write a test, and you fail all that. I'll skip it for now. Maybe we can talk about that later if you guys want. But the TCR is you write a test. You don't worry about making failure or anything, but you write just enough code to make the test pass. So you write a test to make the code pass. If you fail, so the result of running the test is red, you revert your change. You begin again. So you wipe out everything that you did and start over. If you manage to make the test pass, you ask yourself, can I make it simpler? If you can, let me see. If you cannot, you go back and write the next test you need to write, and then you follow this path. If you can make it simpler, you refactor it, and if you break it by the act of refactoring, you wipe everything that you did again. So you start over again. And then you write the test again, and all of that. So the moral of the story, from what I was able to get, I didn't practice this myself, by the way. I'm talking about something just so you guys don't research it later. It's more like forcing you to work on incremental steps. It's a weird thing, but maybe it sticks out. So maybe in 5 years from now, people will be going crazy about it. It's a new thing. Okay, so is there any question? Am I going too fast? Probably. I talk way too fast. Are you guys okay? Okay. So I'm going to give you an example that, to me, kind of summarizes what I've been talking for the test. I don't know how long it's going. So what I want you guys to imagine is the following problem. There are going to be 2 developers. The task, they can be developers if they're doing that, but there are 2 guys, right? And the task is to go over a wall. They need to build something to cross that small wall. By the way, see my skills with painting, right? I did great. So basically what this guy thinks is, okay, I need a fast solution. So what I'm going to do, being given the boards of wood, he would just cut it any way that he can. So there's some, I don't know how to call this, either in Spanish or English, but you can see that it's badly and not evenly cut. and there's holes in it. But he doesn't need within a week. So he puts it up, make it like a ramp or an edge, ramp, I don't know, whatever. So the guy can place it across it by walking. You can see how dangerous that can be, right? I mean, it's not an ideal solution by far. So that's this other smart guy right here, which is going to take longer. This guy is like, okay, I mean, I never thought of that, but it's going to take 2 weeks to do that. What it's going to do is be given the same board, the same material, the same requirements. It's going to be the lab, which probably everybody would. But the thing is that guy wanted to go fast. So he was willing to commit any crime to get the job done. All good. So who won? The guy did it faster, right? But as with software, everything changes. And we have more and more iterations. So in the next iteration, we raised the wall. So the wall wasn't like this before. Now it's bigger. So the game changed completely, shift around. So this guy took 2 weeks to do this thing. I mean, I kind of wanted to represent it better, but you can see it's kind of trembling. And I wouldn't risk my life trying to go across something like this. And the other guy, it took 1 week, and he was able to build on top of the previous solution. So he just added another layer on top of the layer that he had, which is basically, by the way, what you want to do with software, if you can. It's not always possible. So the moral of the story, they both took 2 weeks to finish. But the guy on the lab will always be, at least if he follows that path and keep doing so, you'll always go worse. So at the next iteration, things are going to get worse because that's how software works. To have a team, I mean, I believe if you're a developer for quite some time, you have probably experienced this from time to time, where things get to a point where it's unbearable. I mean, I have, and I can simply give you examples of this, where you go to work and you're frustrated because you cannot make it better anymore. I mean, there's no way to keep on going. You basically copy and paste pieces of the code all the time, and it just gets worse and worse. But the other guy, the way he makes a solution, thinking about scalability, not only in terms of performance and things like that. I should have put some prices there, because it's not about scalability in terms of performance. It's more about the money you spend to maintain that kind of solution. So you can see that, of course, not all software is perfect. So at times, it will take more than what you usually do, which is a week. But the solution that it provides will be better as time passes, or will at least be even. It's not going to make the code worse and worse, which is what we love to do or don't. So basically, to put this out, the bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low prices forgotten. So I wish I could, put this in the mind of the people that run companies. I don't think everybody gets there, especially if they've never been a developer before. It's quite common to have that mentality, right? I mean, if you guys rush, if you're doing like this, oh, it's fine. I mean, we don't need this for quite a long time. Let's do it the best way we can. No problem. Just give me what I want, and I'll pay just as much for it, and things will be good. But generally, they don't.
Sometimes it's hard to find a balance because it's so easy to call it over-design.
Exactly. Yeah. This is where the experience comes in, right?
Yeah, don't deliver crap, but over-design.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no solution to that. We will always be going back and forth in this sense. But the thing is, the more experience you have, the more situations like this you've experienced. Therefore, you're very prepared to make the best decision. My team is probably all here, and we have this kind of conversation back and forth. I mean, are we going too far with this? Is this the right time to do stuff? This will be like, at least as I see, an endless process. As long as you know what you're doing, and you all share the same vision, you're all the same boat, so you can always go back and change this. As long as you don't go on your own cubicle, coding for like weeks and weeks, you probably can go back some of the changes or refactor something to be better. It's just, I think everything in software comes down to make smaller steps. Don't take big steps, don't do anything crazy. And of course, in order to be able to be that second guy, you have to practice yourself. You have to get better. You have to improve yourself. So it's not about just, I wish I knew AWS or something like that. Yeah, okay. and maybe you think your company should provide training for you. But if you don't go home and you practice it, you're probably not going to get there. It's more about you. You as an individual should always be thinking, well, what can I do? Not in a competition way, but what can I do that will delight my customer? The person that is hiring me. What can I do? How can I be better? So that I give that kind of solution, because you're not born with that quality. It's not given to you. You get it from time. And I think it's a never stopping process. I don't think it's going to come a day where you say, okay, I'm able to give all the best solutions, and everything that I do, people can build on top of it. It's probably like, you screwed up from time to time, but it's in a controlled way. You know how to do it. So prepare yourself so that when the opportunity comes, you're ready for it. Okay, so that was kind of it. Maybe I'll go back to practices before again, but now I want to focus on something that is implied in the manifesto. And I hope this is not too long, which is the professionalism part. So it's so much more difficult to do practices and to think about that stuff if you're not a professional. Because probably, I mean, it's kind of hard to define them, right? There are all kind of people in our industry, people that are there just, because they couldn't be doing something else. There are people in our industry that, they wish to leave. And there are those who commit crimes. There are those who don't care about anything. So it's very unlikely that you'll find somebody that does all those practices, and it's not a professional. By a professional, I mean somebody who cares about what he's doing, who has regard to the act of, giving something to your customer, to provide them with the best solution you can. So this, I don't remember if in the manifesto it has that word explicitly, but believe me, it's underneath the covers in every aspect. So now another example. Okay, be ready for this one. But I actually ask for your opinion now. So basically the situation here is the following. A guy who show up is sick, and he's going to a doctor, right? I want you to pay attention and that's going to come out. We're going to spoil this out. There's two doctors, right? Pay attention to the replies. See how they behave. Then we can discuss them. Okay, so basically, doctor, my arm's hurt. What would you like me to do about it? Make my arm stop hurting. Obvious, right? Do you want me to cut it off? I can do that. Why not, right? No, I just want it to stop hurting. By this time I would believe. Okay, you're not telling me, you're not suggesting to cut my arm off. What the fuck? I could cut all the nerves to your arm. That would stop it. It's quite obvious, but no thanks. Isn't there something less drastic you could do? Oops, sorry, time for my break. Let's not judge that for now, okay? Let's ignore this guy. So same situation again, but we change players. Okay? The smart guy again. I want you to cut my arm off. So, okay, so if you lost this, the guy initially he was okay. I have pain in my arm. Can you fix it somehow? And now he comes back, probably on a different day where he had it. I just wanted to cut it off. Please do so. What's wrong with your arm? It hurts. I'm tired of it. Just cut it off. Let me see your arm. I'm not gonna do that sound. Looks like you've got a sprain or perhaps a hairline fracture. I don't know what that is. We should take some x-rays. Probably guy screwed up, but not as bad as you need to cut his arm. No, just cut it off. Who does that? Sir, I do not cut healthy arms. But I'm paying you. You have to do what I say. I could count the times that I listen to this phrase from passing quarters. It's the worst thing in the world. No, sir, I don't cut it off. I don't. No, I still know how to read. Cutting off your arm would violate my oath. Oath, by the way, you all know what the word means, kind of what we do. Where you basically has a list of principles that you don't allow yourself to go. So my question to you is, which one would you rather be? The first one or the second one? You, which one would you rather be? The first one or the second one? Second one.
Or the first sick guy. Was also smart.
Yeah, I would say that, maybe you think that this example doesn't translate to what we do. And I would disagree with that point. I've been in both situations. I've been asked to do things that were way beyond my capacity, and things that should not be done at all. And by that time, I didn't have the ability or the mindset to say, no, I should not do that by any means. I mean, at one point I said, I'm not going to do that, and I got fired for it. But I don't regret it, because it would violate my moral principles. I mean, I was about to behave as somebody that I don't think I should. So I'm not suggesting that you should do that, by the way. Each and every one of you, it's up to you. But I don't regret it being following my principles and doing things that I consider to be correct. So no regret on that. However, I've also been the other guy. And let me tell you a story about this. So the year was, I think, 2009 or 2010, something like that. So it was long ago, and I was just starting off as a C# developer for a very big company in Brazil. Actually, the company is from Switzerland. They sell insurance or something like that. It's a big one. But then I was the fresh new guy from the office, and they, for some reason, decided that I should be the one who should do an Excel import, an spreadsheet import, one of the most important ones for the company, that would read off of all the information from the course and actually puts up a report saying, well, you have to pay these people this amount and all that. Me, a junior developer, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. But the way this relates to the story was that, of course, I didn't know anything about threads and anything. So guy wanted me to create an application where he could input the Excel and then get the report in the end. I did just that. But I didn't know anything about threads. So what did I do? I just created a Windows application. Excel was huge, and it would freeze his machine. And for like 1 hour, 2 hours. So actually, I would impede, I don't know, 10 people from working on their computer for 2 hours a day, due to my ignorance. I don't blame me for doing so. I didn't know it. But you see how this all relates. I mean, and I still can remember the day I found out about background workers, how happy I was and how happy they were to see that, okay, if I don't block the UI thread, this will still be going on, and you'll get the results in the end. I mean, I'm not going to argue that I shouldn't be doing that's all that's right. I mean, as a junior developer, it was very risky to put myself to do that. I didn't know that it was too much responsibility back then. I did talk to my father, though, because my father was a software developer, actually. He used to work on PL1, which is a very old language, the 70s or 80s, I don't know. And when I told him about what I was doing, he said, yeah, there's, put your name out there and work like, they used to work like from Friday to Monday when something went bad. And he would get proud of me for doing extra hours. So just so minded, but he was trying to do the right thing. So, okay, here comes some definitions of a candidate for an oath that we could follow. I will not claim that you should know all of this. I'm not saying that you should agree upon all of the points here. This is from my Uncle Bob, by the way, this is not mine. I didn't write any of those, although I agree with most, if not all of them. So, this I would like you to think about each point as I read it. Because I don't know if you can see it. I mean, I'm kind of blind, so I would like somebody to read it for me, so I'll read it for you. I will not produce harmful code. This is quite clear, right? I mean, maybe you think that you're unable to do so. I mean, I don't know what you guys, what is the software you guys work on. But if you think about it, you could probably do some harmful thing if you decide so. I mean, there's software running around everything, around the room, everywhere. So if we decide to turn ourselves to the dark side, it could cause a lot of damage. So this is quite obvious. I think this has, he borrowed this from the medical oath, which is the same thing. I mean, if you're a doctor, you probably kill somebody with seconds if you decide to. And it's going to come a point where everything that we do relates to that at some point, I believe, because software is running everywhere, so you never know. So don't do anything that's harmful. Don't do anything that will cause harm to anybody, to anyone. The code that I produce will always be my best work. I will not knowingly allow code that is effective either in behavior or structure to accumulate. I doubt anybody can do that. I don't think this is possible if you at least don't consider the last part. Because I don't know if this phrase implies that it will happen. Because this, I will always, is kind of, I mean, even when you do your best work, it may not be enough. And it's sad, but it's true. I mean, back when I was doing the Excel report, that was my best work, but it was shit. I didn't know that. So the secret to me is to focus on the to accumulate part. So you see something that is bad, you may have the time or may not have the time to fix it at that time, but don't let it accumulate. Be, you know, the Boy Scout rule where you find something wrong, you fix it. Don't let it accumulate, because if you do, especially on structure stuff, in behavior, if you say, oh, there's a bug, I click on a button, does the wrong thing. I mean, that could probably be fixed easier than if you model the problem in the wrong way and you allow that to stick. I mean, we sometimes we do, right? We do something that we kind of regret doing so. And sometimes we say, okay, I don't have the time to do that. I cannot sell this to the PO. We're not accepted. I would argue that sometimes it doesn't have to know about that. It was you who did that, so it should be you to fix it. Find the time, just don't let it grow. Because if you do, you cannot add value anymore. Suddenly you're letting the code rot and hell breaks loose. I will produce with each release a quick, sure, and repeatable proof that every element of the code works as it should. This to me breeds like tests. I mean, you have to be able to represent your code in a form that anybody can run it at any point, and you can see that the code is working. By the way, tests are not perfect. One of the things that bothered me when somebody was talking about TDDs or something like that, there's always this implied thing that if you follow it and if you test it, if you do any sort of automated test, your test is never going to, your code is never going to be faulty or everything is going to be perfect. This is a lie. I mean, I had a problem today that, Jesus Christ, how did I let that happen? But we practice TDD here in the labs. I don't know if all the teams does. My team, from our project, we spread across Poland and what is the other, Ireland, the base one. So we follow TDD, and still, you can miss scenarios. It happens. I mean, the code you wrote is testable. It's tested. I can run the test. But if you miss a scenario, you can still break. And it will break in production because there's so much you can achieve. So one would argue that I did the wrong thing, that I took maybe like a higher step or a bigger step than I should. It may be true. I'm still thinking about how did I let this lead. Probably just forgot the scenario. It happens. We're human after all. So, but you should still strive. I mean, this is the part where this is the best you can, right? I mean, if something new comes up, if TDD stops being the best thing that at least I know of, and somebody, it can be anything. You know, I created a framework now that works better than TDD. I'll do it. You know, it's not like you should have any religious intent towards any technique, but to prove your code right, not to prove right because we do that, but to prove that your requirements are there somehow, it's at least something that you should do for every release. I will make frequent small releases so that I not impede the progress of others. This is one of the reasons why I don't quite like Trump-based development. Always had problems with it. I know it works for some teams, but I highly recommend that you follow this practice. You follow this idea of committing often. You know, and I have lots and lots of problems doing so. I have the horrible habit of committing but not pushing. So when I push, I have to do measures and all of that, and this is not cool. Sorry about that. I will fearlessly, I can read that. I will fearlessly, we have no neighbors, and relentlessly improve my creations at every opportunity. I will never degrade them. Same thing as I talked before, I'm going to go over that. I will do all that I can to keep the productivity of myself and others as high as possible. So basically, yes, don't shut down your teammates. Don't give them crap. So if you do, they will not be productive and all that. Common sense, right? Too bad you don't do it. I will do all that reading the same thing again. I will continuously ensure that others can cover for me and I can cover for them. This is difficult to do. I know for a fact that there are things that the guys on my team do on a daily basis that I don't get to participate very much. And please don't get sick, because if you do, the pipeline is going to suffer. So that's the thing you should avoid. You should always know everything about how all of your teammates perform. Because if one of us is not, we need to keep the ball rolling. No successful team has, the big star doing all the things. It may work in sports, but believe me, it doesn't work in soccer. If you have a guy, if you hire somebody that, we have the Tiger team, and they have somebody that, is the best guy we can hire, he will not do everything alone. So you learn from him, so when he's gone, you're able to capitalize on that and do things yourself. I will produce estimates that are honest, both in magnitude and precision. I will not make promises without certainty. Is that possible to do? Estimates that are honest, both in magnitude and precision? Can you guys do it? I can. But I know of something that might help me there. First thing, I don't like to lie. I don't lie. So all estimate that I'm supposed to give, I say I don't know, because that's the truth. You don't know. And you may find this I'm probably going crazy. But if you give somebody a number, say, I'm going to take 3 hours, I assume you're lying. All right. How do you know it's 3 hours? What calculation did you do in your mind that you came up to 3 hours or 2 weeks? It's not possible. You could say 3 hours and 5 minutes. That's very precise. But is it accurate though? It will take you 3 hours and 5 minutes. So what I suggest you to do is what ours has been discussing. It's a very complicated topic. There is a movement called no estimates. We flirted with the idea once. I kind of like that. I wish we could go back to this, because we don't see value in estimate. From our team, I guess. I don't know if I speak for all of you, but I don't think it matters too much. We know how much we can pay, and when we fail to take it, we learn from it, and then we go. I know from a project management perspective, this is bad, right? They want an estimate of how long the project is going to take, who's doing what, and all of this. But I'm sorry, I'll always be lying. So what do I do to minimize this? I always have a range in mind of 3 points, not scoring points or whatever points. 3 points of time. So in the best case scenario, if I wake up on my best, if I take, magic drinks and things like that, and all my teammates do, I could probably take 2 hours to do this. If I do on my regular time, it'll take 5. And if I break my leg, 2 weeks. And usually what I tell people is, okay, it's 2 weeks. Because if it's not, then I can get the next thing. So don't behave unprofessionally. This is where we should discuss all of this, because the people that came before us, they would do something, okay, I'm gonna take 2 weeks. They would do it in a day, get the money and all. So if you're honest all the time, if you're saying, okay, I don't know, but these are the best I can do in terms of giving you time, and you work with your PO, saying, okay, I finished it. Can I get the next thing? And they're not, holding off that circuit, YouTube voucher, things like that. So it's difficult to do. I don't have an answer for that. Sorry. Anybody who has an answer for that? Estimations? Anyone? Try? Okay. I will never stop learning and improving my craft. Yeah, this is a personal thing. I don't know if it should be on or no. It's like I said, there's many ways of. If you guys are here, you probably care about. Not that this will mean a lot to you, but you probably go to other meetups as well when you're interested in getting yourself to a higher level and things like that. So you're making a difference. I actually believe a lot in that, and I'll actually tell you why I think practice is a very important thing leaders like. Okay, so now another example. So we're approaching the end of the things that I want to talk about. This was for the guides and things like this. But the points I'm going to talk about are generally advices that happened throughout my career, just with the Excel spreadsheet. I have others of that cases. Well, a lot of them, but I'm going to minimize them all. So pay attention to this dialogue, okay? So let's imagine, let me give you a background. So let's imagine a student and a master, okay? An apprentice and a master. Let's imagine that the apprentice has been watching the master perform for quite a while. So one day, the master cannot be there. So the apprentice wants to take over. But the thing is, the apprentice wasn't doing a very good job of paying attention. He wasn't trying to influence himself. He was just watching every day. Just like some people do programming, right? Walk the other guy, keep on writing, I'm just watching, and then when it's my turn, I'll try to watch and all that. So he wasn't collaborating very much. So here's the story. Look like. So, like I said, guy on the right is the master, obviously looks like a kid. I hope that cat does that. So basically he cannot be there, so the apprentice says, okay, I can do that for you. I've been watching you all these years. And the master says, you've also been watching the clouds. Doesn't mean you can make it rain. So the idea behind this is that if you don't live things, if you have never done it yourself, just by watching somebody do something, you don't learn it. If you watch me do TDD for 3 hours without touching the keyboard, trying it for yourself, seeing the problems yourself, it doesn't mean much. Can you learn to ride a bike by reading a book? Or learn to swim by watching a video? I tried because I don't know how to swim. And believe me, I almost died because it's not the same thing. I mean, I kept moving my arms as the guy said so. But it's different. I have to be in the water. I want to swim most of the time. So the example I want to give you towards this is that leading by example is actually what you want to do. I mean, everybody says this, right? Oh, if you want to make a change, be the change. But first, we need to ensure what is the example you're setting. So I would probably say that this is partly the fault of the master as well, for not letting his student be prepared. You know, he's watching him for years. Why is he not prepared to assume he should be? So it's not like the student is the wrong guy. Let me tell about the story. It was, I don't know, 3 years ago something. It was when I was starting off my career. Not much. I mean, I would be like this mid-range ago. And I wanted to do TDD. I mean, I would have dreams about it. You know, I read every book I could. I purchased all the courses that you can ever imagine. I paid high price for different people to get the knowledge from different people. In Brazil, there were companies that would say that they did TDD, but I know it wasn't true because I had friends in those companies. And they would say, okay, yeah. No, they say they do, but the reality is we have a test project with one class inside of it. And sometimes somebody comes up and say, oh, I'm going to do it, but they never do it. But I still insisted, right? I knew that I took it as an important thing and I wanted to do it. And I kept trying and trying by myself at home. So I would read everything I could, watch every video I could. And I was very good in the theory side of things. So if you would ask me, oh, is this a nice test? Have I done, you know, this in the proper way? I would probably be able to say, yeah, I think so, because of this and that. And then come a day where in my company, I was not allowed to do any sort of test automation. I tried to complete them. I did a presentation. Something like this one. My boss was there. It was like, yeah, one day we will. So what did I do? What you should not do. I showed that to the client of the company. I work inside the client. So I said, okay, fuck them, they don't want to do it, let's go to the client and sell it to them. And they did buy it. They said, yeah, I want that. Because I have this legacy system, and if you build it on top of, if you build the new version, the upgraded version, using TDD, it's going to be a great thing. Can you do that? And I said, yeah, of course, I've been studying this for years. Not years, actually, but, you know, for quite some time. I think I'm ready to do it. The day I said that, I instantly realized I was not. Because they said, okay, we're going to hire another 6 developers, and you have to teach them on what we call the sprint 0. When the guy told me that I would have to teach others, I started trembling because I knew it wasn't ready. But my pride and my ego would not allow me to tell him, I'm not ready for this. I mean, I think you should do that. Let's find help. Somebody has to know it. Let's hire somebody, and then I can learn from him and then teach others. But no, I was too prideful to roll back. I mean, I already, you know, made it up so they could do so. And the rest of the story is quite tragic because I took that team on, and Sprint 0 was 2 weeks. So I had 2 weeks to teach all of this to other people, and I didn't even know it very well myself. I realized that I knew the theory very much, But people would ask me, okay, I have a failing test, but what is this, the simplest thing that could possibly work? And I was saying, I think it was like that. So the other guy would come in and say, I think it's like that. And that was the time that I realized that I should not push for things that I don't dominate. I should not sell something that I wasn't ready to buy. And yeah, the end of the story is not good. I handed over the software to them, and at some point I had to give up the test. So I felt like shit because I promoted something, and then I wasn't able to keep going with that. It was a very bad day for me. It was an experience, right? I'm able to tell you this so that you don't do it yourself. So yeah, so learning is doing things for yourself. And especially if you can find people that like-minded and train together. Oh, this is another thing about me in the beginning of my career. You know those guys that do things are very smart? And you know, yeah, I can do that. All this. I used to be like that in college. I failed the first college that I did, which was for network, not programming. But it had a programming class there. And I couldn't do it at all. I thought people that did programming was crazy. I mean, how could they understand all those variables things? I had a really bad teacher, I would say. And then I gave up. And then my father comes in, the same person that, you know, yeah, I should be doing those things. But this was before, right? He came to me and said, okay, it's hard. Let me teach you what I still remember from it and all that. And then I decided to take a college solely based on programming, which I hated, by the way. But I knew it was a challenge. So I would be the first one to get to the class and the last one to leave. And eventually I got good at it. And then I kind of became arrogant at some point because I would get the good grades, everybody would want to pair with me, and I was feeling myself very hard. Until I came to my first, and one of the teachers offered me an internship on this company. That was when I realized that all of this thing about, oh, I did this, you did that, my code looks like this, your looks like that. Nobody wins from this. So today is one of the behaviors that I despise the most. I mean, sometimes we say things that kind of makes people think that we're trying to be competitive to them. You know, and who wrote this? You know, when you ask that, you sound like a son of a bitch. But maybe you're not doing this on purpose. But you have to remember it, and it happens to me all the time. I don't say it out loud anymore, but this is self-explanatory. I mean, it happens to me sometimes. But what I do right now is that I take this information from me, so I don't, who did that? So you have to remember that when you point the finger to somebody, there are all the three fingers pointing back at you. So try to be respectful. I mean, there's no competition. This is not how you win in the career. It's not looking at the other guy and say, I know more than him. That doesn't mean anything. It's a personal thing. If he knows more than you, then learn from him. Try not to, keep people that are less experienced and things like that. It all falls down to experience. I don't believe in talent so much. I mean, I've known some developers back in Brazil, there are at least two of them, that they look like crazy people. That they would come up with like smart solutions in a blink. But when I think about it, and when I got to know them better, I realized that this was the only thing that they did for the money. I mean, I play games sometimes, I do other stuff, and I have a wife, I have like family, and things I have to do. I have to clean the house from time to time. Arguably, my wife thinks I should do it more often. But those guys, they didn't. I mean, so if I would compete with them, I would always lose. The guy would send me bucks daily. Okay, I think we should buy this one next. I said, dude, you've been doing this for 30 days. I'm on the first one still. I cannot keep up. So this is how it works. So if you want to be the guy, the genius guy, you just have to work yourself. But don't minimize others. You don't gain anything from it. Okay, so this is again another personal thing. At the beginning I had this, I would feel embarrassed to say, oh, I don't know that. Sometimes I still feel kind of like stupid when I make a mistake, but this is a personal thing. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're, fuck it, I screwed up. So today, when I found out that I missed the test case, it hurts me a little bit because it's not like how I have to be right all the time, but it's how did I not see that? And for some of the stuff that we try to learn, practicing yourself won't do it. like I said at the beginning, I don't think test-driven development is something that you can learn by yourself. I mean, you probably can if you're very smart and if you're diligent, you know, practice everything. But I couldn't. So what did I do? I asked help for, you know, you can't do it in time. I asked Uncle Bob's help in 2013, 5 years ago. So basically, you probably cannot read this. I'm not embarrassed to show this, by the way. If you Google my name, probably this is going to come up. So essentially, what's going on is that I was during that phase that I just told you, where I wanted to apply TDD by any means and all that. And I say, dude, I don't understand this whole thing about the sequencing that could possibly work. I find myself not running the failing test. I know the test is going to fail, so I don't run it. So I skip all those steps. I do it wrong. I don't know how to do. Can you provide me with anything? I'm on the dark here because the people that I knew, my circle, nobody would do the practice. And when you talk about TDD, like the bizarre guy, you know, nobody wants to talk to you. And say, hey guys, I think we should do TDD. They would look like me as I was the crazy one. So I kind of had to reach for help from the outside. So I decided to mail him about other things as well, which are not relevant. But basically what he told me is that, yeah, keep consuming the material from other people, everybody that you can. Keep practicing on yourself, but find a group of people that think like you. If they have like a study group or something like that. I couldn't find it. So eventually, a few years later, I ended up in a company where I found somebody that did this for a very long time. This was when I finally, I can't say I got it, but I eventually was able to put it in practice. So don't be embarrassed to send people email and ask for help. If you need something, just do it, because I don't think you won't regret it. This made me feel a lot better. Just the fact that he replied, and I saw that, you know, it's difficult for others too. So who knows what's going through everybody's mind. Okay, so we reached a point where I have to talk about some, I don't know how to define it. Some misconceptions, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, probably you that know the movie. By the way, I'm not a politician. I'm not qualified to talk about what I'm going to talk about now. So take my words very lightly. The software craftsmanship movement has been around for a decade. Recently, I don't know if very recently, but recently there has been some complaints from women saying that the word is, how can I say, machismo? Yeah, exactly, because it has the word man in it, not woman. So every time you say craftsman, man, you have to say craftswoman. Do I think this is the right solution, not to say craftsmanship, say craftsperson, which is what some of the companies have been adopted? I don't know. I mean, whatever makes it more inclusive. I'm willing to do whatever the community wants. So if I find out that you find disrespectful that I say craftsman, I will not do so. But I think there's a lot. The reason why I'm telling you this is because if you don't know about those things and you keep, if you go out the streets, yelling craftsmanship, somebody's going to throw a stone on you, because that's how things are nowadays. I think we need a better word for the movement altogether. But it's not easy to replace it. The manifesto was right with this word. There's something I can do. I can try to find a solution. Some people, like Honduras, when they refer to people, they call them craftspeople, not craftsmen and craftswomen anymore. But the movement is craftsmanship. So I was criticized for having the talk with this name, by the way. Somebody from other communities said, oh, we've been trying so hard to take out this craftsmanship thing because it's toxic. And back in the first point that I made, they also said something about raising the bar being a bad thing. I don't know how it could be, because I had a meeting with my POs today. All of them came from all over the countries. I don't know if some of them are not from Ireland. But all of them say something about getting the bar higher or something like that. So if there's something bad about those things, I don't know. Just be careful. There's a lot of controversy going around the term. And I'm glad that you all came. I don't think I should even be talking about this, but I am, because if you go home and tweet about it, just be careful, because at your own risk, by the way. And just to close this up, one of the things that we are also criticized for is cult-like behavior. I don't know if that word exists, by the way, I made it up, but because I didn't want to put the word religion there. But it's kind of like a lot of people that follow the movement, they tend to talk in a way that would imply that they are better than others. So basically, it's like, oh, if I'm a craftsman, if I call myself a craftsman, it means that I'm better than all of you that don't do TDD or memory and all that, which is not true. So you see that a lot. A lot of people criticizing people for talking in that way, and a lot of people talking in that way because they want others to get better. They do not mean to be mean to others. This is the way they talk. So let's see an example. By the way, this guy's not a craftsman, not publicly craftsman. Actually, he disagrees with the idea that TDD means professionalism. Uncle Bob says that if you don't do TDD, you're not a professional, because otherwise, how would you know your code works? I will not answer that question, but he can aside for the manifest, okay? So now we'll go into this thing, which had a lot of pushback from it. So basically, it says if code doesn't feel like pain or passionately creative writing, you have at least another level to master before calling yourself improvement. What's wrong with that phrase? I mean, at first I kind of like it, and I first click it. Oh, nice, because I can relate to that somehow. Sometimes I start looking at code and I think, oh, yeah, it looks like a phrase. I kind of like that stuff. You know, I kind of think about code in a sense. Okay, can I write this as a phrase or something? Sometimes I get very stupid with this stuff. So I kind of related to that, but then I didn't realize that there's a hidden message there. Why would you have to say this part? You know, the last part. Why is he excluding everybody that doesn't have that feeling, calling them non-programmers? How can you do that? I mean, who the hell is he to tell us that, oh, if you don't feel like programming is like, you know, playing soccer, you're not a programmer. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter how I feel. So this is the behavior that some of the craft people tend to have, and it's not a good thing. Don't do that. So let's see the answer from one of the craftsmen. Which, by the way, this guy signs a manifesto, and see how he talks about it. No, your profession doesn't need to be your passion. No, if you don't love your job more than you love your family, you're not doing it wrong. Passion is rarely sufficient. It certainly isn't necessary. I'm glad that your job is your passion. Enjoy it. So you see, this guy is way more. In Brazil, we have some expression that when you have your feet attached to the ground, right? It's not like floating. Which is what the other guy is doing. I mean, you cannot expect everybody to feel that way and call them programmers or not. It's kind of arrogant of you. So the community pushed back on him. Thankfully, he wasn't freshman. Otherwise, you know, people would keep bashing the movement time and time again. But just bear in mind that the way you talk about things will imply how you behave. So choose your words carefully. So to close this out, I've been talking for 1 hour or something. And I could resume everything that I said in this slide. And actually, when I put this up, I was like, do I still have to talk? Because if I show this, I can probably leave. To me, this capitalizes everything. So we're tired of running crap. We're tired of embarrassing ourselves and our employees by delivering loose software. We have had enough of telling our customers to reboot at midnight. We don't want bug lists that are 1,000 pages long. We don't want code that grows more tangled and corrupt with every passing day. We are tired of doing a bad job. We want to start doing a good job. That's what this is all about, nothing else. To me, this is what the movement is all about. Is how we can stop this trend of people think about us as the wrong people, as those who are careless, things like that. So just to close this out, the most important thing is that what I'm doing here should extend to you. I'm basically saying a lot of words. How you take this is up to you. But the only way to go strong about all those things is if we get together. So if you find what I said meaningful, we should probably get together and see how we can better together, how we can get better together. So one of the things that I'm thinking about creating, I had this in Brazil, by the way, when I used to do this kind of meetups. I would offer meetups that would train people on the various topics. And I don't want to call that a community, because if I do so, it would probably conflict with our communities that we have here in Madrid. And I don't think I'm qualified to do that. I don't speak Spanish very well, probably all this. So if you're interested, I'm thinking about taking a first step, doing the next meetup about, I don't know, if you could give feedback afterwards, even if you want to send a message or something. I mean, supposedly you want to learn TDD, why not have a TDD session with myself and my team, for example? We can probably get a lot of people to program with you individually, switch pairs, and test this out. Okay, so once we get TDD out of the way, what's the next big thing? Can we try that campaign together? Can we see if it works out? Do you want to invite your Spanish friend? Just do it. We can get David to translate. You guys have been translating all the time. So we just keep on going. Never allow, embarrassment and this bad feelings about, oh, I don't know that. It's going to take me ages to learn it. Probably not. Probably if you sit down with somebody who's been doing this for 5 minutes, I don't know. So that's it for me. You guys have any questions? Let's see then.